We've now become a more tribalized culture. And there's a guy, some of you may have read, Francis Fukuyama. He's written a lot on the history. And he wrote this book years ago. And Francis Fukuyama, it was long before we're in this time today. And he basically wrote about why do democracies emerge and work in some places and they don't work in others around the world? Why does that happen? Why do democracies are successful and other places not? And this key thing he said is that they don't work in places where people are in their tribe and they're unwilling to come together with consensus and the common good. A democracy can't work if you're unwilling to come out of your tribe and leave something behind, give something up, and work in the common good. To me, where we are at today is that because somebody puts on a red jersey, somebody puts on a blue jersey, they're unwilling to bridge any sort of empathy. They're unwilling to see the other side, and I know this is a huge part of why you're doing what you're doing, which is fabulous, is that we're continually getting into this point where the sides not only will not come to the common good, they won't even agree upon a common set of facts. And as we become more and more tribalized, my belief is we become more and more a broken democracy. And as we become a broken democracy, we can't solve the fundamental problems that exist in our country today. And we have to solve that problem. Each of us has a brand, right? And each of us has a brand in that who are we and what do we stand for. Oftentimes people confuse their resume and their bios for their brand. And I mentioned it's a book. Your brand isn't your bio, right? Your brand isn't that you're married, you work at an insurance company, you have 3 kids and all that, all important parts of you. Your brand is what do you want to present yourself to the world and the values you represent. And every single person or institution or whatever your foundation needs to understand that they have something that their mission, their value, whatever it is they're doing, they want to present. Are you a person that's tolerant? Are you a person that wants to be seen as compassionate? Are you a person that wants to be seen as strong and decisive? All of those things are a brand. And I think it's important for all of us to understand when we walk out, when we walk in here, when we talk to people, we are conveying a set of values that is part of who we are. It's not just like, well, let me just tell you something about me and here's 3 things that are all part of your biography. It is understanding that whatever set of values we have, and how we live those set of values becomes our brand. Me, and each of us have to change in order for our leaders to change, because leaders don't lead, they follow. Leaders don't fundamentally lead, they follow. And the best leaders in our country, figure out where the country, the aspirational quality of the country, and where the country fundamentally wants to go and how the country wants to behave, and gets a half a step in front of where the country already wants to go, where the community wants to go. And so I think we have to give direction to our leaders in how we behave and how we relate to each other and how we gather information. The problem with technology, like all history of technology, is that with every technological change and advancement, there's gain and there's loss, right? And we see the gain, but we've also lost. So we have more connections today, but we're less in touch with people. It's raining data, but we're thirsty for wisdom. Right? We have all of this stuff, and I think we have to give space. I think too many of us we don't give the space to our leaders to move in the way they need to move, to give them a path of compassion and a place for it, because we want a quick response to know where they're with us. And so until we teach our leaders, now we can have an expectation that we want leaders, that we want them to be humble servants, that we want them to serve the public, we want them, all of that's right, and we should find and search for those leaders that reflect that. But I don't think they're going to change until we do, because I think politics is a marketplace, right? And the marketplace responds to consumers. And we, as the consumers, have to change our habits in order for the political marketplace to respond to new consumer habits. 1 of every 4 Donald Trump voters, think about this, 25% of Donald Trump's vote voted for him believing he was not qualified to be president and he didn't have the temperament to be president. 25% of his voters. That's 16 million people voted for him knowing that. Why? And they voted for him knowing that because of what they didn't like on the other side of this. And so the Democrats, I think, have not learned from this election, which is the Democrats are always like, well, demography, the country is changing, and therefore we're going to win elections, and the way the country is changing is going to be to our benefit, and therefore that's all, that's what we need to do. It's just going to naturally happen. Well, the Democrats have to figure out a way to present to groups that aren't reflected in their coalition that exists today, to present to voters in places and in times, because right now, though demography is a benefit to Democrats, geography is a benefit to Republicans. Look at the map of the United States and the way the map looks. And most political jurisdictions are defined by geography. And so I think what's happened, which always happens, is a lot of the wrong lessons are learned. And I think even losses. I learned more from my losses in life, as you, I'm sure, have,
Exactly.
both political and personal. Then I remember when I learned early on, when I lost a political campaign, not to sort of say, oh, if this happened, I would have won. I learned, like, what did we do wrong? What should our campaign should have done better? Because blaming it on somebody else and blaming it on something else means you're never going to actually correct the behavior that needs to be corrected. And I think both sides need to correct behavior that needs to be corrected, but they both are learning the wrong lessons.
Yeah.